All right, you guys, welcome to the Talk Real to Me podcast. This episode, we have Jeremy Engle. He is the owner of Vero Mortgage, the number one lender when it comes to VA loans. Very, very big day. I'm very excited to have like a number one again in here. You are definitely someone that is important to us. You know that already. I'm excited to have you on. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Excited to have you on.
Excited to be here. A little bit nervous. I get a little nervous in cameras. So
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But, let's do this.
Awesome. Our topic today, VA loans. Got to do it. Got to be one of the first things that we're throwing out there.
Done a couple of those.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. A couple phone calls every now and then.
Here and there.
Meetings, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. How long have you been in the business? What got you into it?
To be honest, I started wanting to be a realtor. Or I knew I wanted to do something in real estate. I wasn't really sure. I got licensed the end of 2005. And got my license while I was still in school. I had a couple little businesses going at the time. And I had a buddy was in lending, and he was like, "Oh, you got to do this. You're going to be so good at it, this and that." And I'm like, "No." And I pushed him off for like 6 months. And at the time I was like mowing lawns, I had a little landscaping business and a screen printing and sign business. And I did my first loan, and it was for a buddy, because no one else is going to give you a deal when it's your first deal.
Right.
So, but I hooked him up, and I made a pretty good chunk of money, and I was like, whoa, I got to mow this many lawns. I got to do this many screen prints.
Yeah.
So I was like, kind of like this. And, one thing led to the other, and here I am today.
There you go.
18 years, I believe. I think I'm on my 18th
Wow.
year, which, God, it makes me feel old.
Yeah. I feel like it was yesterday.
I was 26 when I started, so.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was the young guy. And in my mind, I'm still the young guy, but
right.
My body's telling me something else.
Yeah. I feel like you have the mentality of a young man.
I try.
With the grind still.
That's the one thing I try to never, forget and lose that. I think that's what makes me more successful than most loan officers is a lot of them will, peaks and valleys. They'll cruise when they've done really well, and then they'll spike when they're not doing well. And it just does that, where I've always just been 100% pedal.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there has not been a time where I felt it's too late to call you.
Yeah. Well, take it easy.
I know that. I know there is a limit.
I'm like, forget MacCauley.
Yeah, always. And unfortunately with our job,
it is what it is.
Yeah. To where I do know it. There is a boundary. Sometimes Brand gives a heads up of what's going on, family wise, if something does come on. So I'm like, okay, can't call him.
No, my notifications turn off at 9:00.
There you go. Good.
And turn on at 6.
There you go. Perfect.
Because I would sleep through it.
Yeah.
But my wife sitting next to me is like, your phone was vibrating all night, so.
Yeah. What's the importance of doing something like that? So you say 9 to 6, you try and cut off the best that you can. Obviously your mind is still going.
It's off. Trying to get through the night without grinding in your mind.
No, I'm saying like the importance of a 9 to 6, that's important. I feel for someone's mental as far as like, hey, I do need to shut down or be with family. Is that your purpose of doing that?
No, I mean, I'm pretty much, my kids are in bed at that time.
Right.
I actually go to bed
at that point
early.
Okay.
Yeah. Like last night I was probably out by 9:45.
Wow.
And I was up by, I think I was up by 4:45. I don't know why, but I was like, oh my God, I hope my alarm doesn't go off, and I'm just watching it. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, okay, it's time to get up.
What are you doing when you wait? What's your routine as far as?
This morning I was in slow, so I drove over. If I'm at home, I'll do 3 days a week. I'll have a trainer come over, and then my wife and I will work out together.
Okay.
I don't love the gym, but
yeah,
it helps when your wife helps you get motivated for that. My sports are snowboarding, surfing, wake surfing, that stuff.
Right. Shout out to Michelle for keeping you healthy. That's good.
I always like to call it less fat, because I'm definitely not a bodybuilder. I do a little too much of this,
Right.
But
get some cardio in.
Yeah, you got it.
Get the heart rate going up.
Absolutely.
And then I'm assuming you wake up and look at rates. Is that just my natural reaction to Jeremy?
No, unfortunately, you got to be careful because yes, I do. I get a text message every morning at 6 a.m.
Okay.
of what's happening in the market. And you got to be really careful that you don't let that determine your day.
Right. Okay.
Because in the last, year and a half, we've had a lot of, upswing in rates. Well, that's negative when you're in the lending industry.
Right.
So yeah, you got to keep the right mindset. And I've learned in the last year and a half, especially, to control the things I can control.
Okay.
And move on the things I can't.
Right.
Because I would dwell on it and have to give people bad news that, sorry, when we originally talked before when you were just looking to get pre-qualified, the rate was this, now it's this.
Right.
It's been a tough deal, especially coming off 2 years of the best rates we've ever had.
Yeah.
And people I feel like I was just, Oprah handing out free everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And it's different today.
Yeah. It's dwindled down for sure.
Yeah.
I feel every time I call you, it's different.
Yeah.
Which I'm not used to. Obviously I'm young in this, very young.
Yeah.
But what I've appreciated on your side is you're also like a coach. I feel like that, hey, ride this out. You're very good at keeping, I don't know if you do it I'd imagine you do this with other realtors, at keeping, young ones calm.
Yeah, I do.
And informed. You're very good at keeping them informed.
I do it with realtors, and I also do it with the borrower, because a lot of times the borrowers, maybe it's their first time.
Right.
And they think oh my gosh, housing is high and rates are high. Well, in a time like this, so I bought homes in 2005 originally, and that was the highest we've ever seen, the spike.
Right. What were interest rates around that time?
I want to say they were 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. Not nothing crazy low. The lowest we've ever seen was the last 2 years during COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
But I bought homes at the top of the market, as rentals, and everything. I got them 30-year fixed. They're paying their mortgage, and on paper I looked really bad because the values tanked.
Right.
Well, over time the values have come back up. Now those houses are paid off. Great.
Yeah.
So I tell that story to a lot of people because they're nervous about buying in a market that could be unsure of what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, the one thing we are sure of is long-term, it's always going to be good.
Right.
There's only so many houses being built, and there's so many, the population is growing.
Right.
So eventually, and inflation, especially right now at 8 or 6% or whatever they're telling us it is right now.
It hurts.
It's, the payment, okay, maybe it's a little high today, but I remember my mortgage payment personally, 9 years ago on a 15-year loan, I went kind of big. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. Well, 3 years later, it's on auto pay. I'm not even thinking about it.
Right.
And with, increase in wages and everything else, it seems, like no big deal.
Gotcha.
So sorry, I'm
no,
off track.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. I want to hit the VA side. So I'm assuming you looked at loans this morning. What are they looking at as of today, percentage wise?
Rate wise? It's hard to say because yesterday was 70 basis points negative. So
can you explain that for people that are new to it?
Let me give you an idea. So say there's a $300,000 loan and it's 100 basis points negative. That means the same rate to yesterday was $3,000 cheaper to get.
Okay.
So 70, call it, $2,200 better.
Okay.
So that's a pretty big swing in one day. And the crazy part about it is the stock market tanked 700 points, rates got higher, and the bond market did everything. Normally one does this
opposite,
and it was all negative across the board. Yeah. So we're like a couple of buddies that we watched the market together. We're like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
You know,
is that the first time that's happened in a while?
No, I mean, ever since I used to think I could read the market pretty well. Then COVID hit, and then I don't.
You don't know what's going, like what can happen.
No, I still understand it and know what's going on, but there's so many like things that are controlled by the government now,
right? That
are so out of whack of what normal market ebbs and flows are.
Right. So are we looking like near 6% roughly, you'd say?
Yeah, probably in the 6s right now.
Okay.
Maybe high 6s, depending. Obviously, the better credit score, the better. VA is not as credit score driven as like conventional loans, where if you had a lower FICO score today on a conventional, you might be in the 7s.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So I'd say in the last 3 weeks, we've been here before, just about a couple months ago, but I would say we're up about a point from where we were 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's been a pretty rapid swing up. Don't know exactly what's driving that. There was a couple reports saying jobs are, better. Inflation didn't go down as much as they were hoping. That kind of stuff's happening. So I do think that they're going to get better. I'm still talking, 12, 18 months out.
Right.
The longest, I think. One thing we have today is everyone in their home has very good interest rates, for the most part, 3%, sub 3 a lot. I did a couple of VA loans at 1.8.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's amazing.
I talked to a guy yesterday and he wants to buy a new home and he actually works for the builder. So he's going to get a deal and he was trying to pencil all the numbers himself.
Yeah.
And he wasn't thinking about, like, he was looking at like a $600,000 home. So
wow.
He's got 1.8 on a $300,000 loan, and his taxes and insurance were almost $700.
Right.
He wasn't really factoring that in. I gave him the payment. He's like, "Ooh,
yeah, I've been living great this whole time."
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
But what I'm seeing a lot of, especially VA loans right now, they might have bought, a couple years ago and had maybe a 4 or 5% rate, refied when the time was right. Now they got their payment down to $1,300, $1,400, $1,500.
Right.
And that house will rent for $2,300.
Right. So
clients I'm currently working with right now, they're like, all right, well, we're going to take this $3,000 mortgage on this $430,000 house, knowing that eventually rates are going to come down. So we're going to lock in this asset. We're going to move into it. We're going to make $700 on our other house. So really, their mortgage is, somewhere in the $2,300 range after offsetting it with that other home. And then if their rate goes down, like if rates go to 4%, I did this calculation yesterday, so I know it exactly out of my head, it'll drop their payment $500 if it goes down to 4.
Okay.
So now they're living in that house for almost the same payment as they were.
Right.
And they're getting their BAH, paying their mortgage.
Right.
Plus their renters are paying their other mortgage. So they're building an asset, or they're building a retirement off the military housing allowance.
Yeah.
Which is freaking awesome.
Yeah. That's government paying.
Yeah. I mean,
their aspect in a way.
Absolutely. And, that's the one thing a lot of people will, I've seen, I've helped a lot of people do this too, where they came to me with a VA loan in Virginia Beach or wherever, Texas, wherever they came from, well, not realizing that they could have another one.
Right.
And they buy a house here. And then 2 years later, they are like, oh, I want a nicer house. Well, let's keep this house. Let's keep the Virginia Beach house. And when they retire from the military, they have, 5 assets that are basically paying for themselves and growing their retirement.
Right.
That's the ticket. If, you know, it's not easy. You got to have the stomach for it. Like,
right.
I have rentals, and I mean, I remember the time my wife and I would be in there, you know, sanding the floors down and, you know, doing all this stuff. Obviously now it's different.
A little bit different.
Yeah, we got 3 kids. We don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Stuff,
Make the kids do it maybe.
Yeah. Well,
no, just kidding.
I struggle getting them to clean their room. You know? But yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
For sure.
So the word entitlement gets thrown around a lot with VA to where people don't understand that. So everything with you saying that they can get this home, roll it over to this, the word entitlement, is that what VA first-time buyers should be looking at as far as?
Not their first time. Their first time, there's no cap. You can do a loan for $2 million. So when your entitlement, there's really complicated calculations to come up with the entitlement. But the easiest way to do it, like off the top of your head, would be take the conforming limit, which is 729 now, minus the loan they have currently. And then
you can use that money.
It basically,
right.
Yeah. So if they have a $300,000 house right now, they can buy a 429 house with 0 out of pocket.
Right.
The cool thing is if they even go over that amount, if they go over 10 grand, over their total entitlement, they just have to come in with 25% of the difference. So, and if they went over 10 grand, 2,500 down, done.
That's beautiful.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously it helps, you know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, the loan amount was 417.
Right.
Houses were cheaper, but still, like if you had a $300,000 house, you didn't really have a lot of room. But now with it being so high nationwide,
right,
you know, it opens up a lot of opportunities.
So when it comes to fees and all that too, so obviously 0% down, that they earn that. You know, that is probably one of the best things that active duty
I've said
veterans
that many times, you know.
Honestly, I feel a VA loan is there's no loan that's better.
There isn't.
No. Honestly.
Yeah, I've had people that have, you know, because the interest rate's better on it too. It's typically, you know, 1/4 to 1/2 depending on your credit score. Better. Right. But yeah, no, I've had many people who are like, oh, I'm just going to do a conventional because I have 20% down. And I'm like, why? You know, especially, I mean, you can go into this more, but if you have any sort of disability, minimum's 10% that I think VA will issue, but you don't pay the funding fee. So then when you go funding fee versus no funding fee, you know, there's no question the VA loan's better. Yeah.
So that's actually a topic that I want to get to. There was multiple ways that you can get that VA funding fee waived, if I'm not mistaken.
Waived, not necessarily waived, but brought down quite a bit.
Okay, so it's not a full...
Yeah, so you can't get away with it unless you are disabled. So basically you have to be retired VA before you can't be active duty plus disabled. You know?
Right,
so once you get out... really quick on this because I've actually had it happen. It takes a little while to get the certification or whatever it is from VA to be disabled. But I've had client that was in the process of getting it. We closed on their house. They were able to submit and get that money back.
Wow.
The funding fee.
Wow.
Yeah. No, so it's pretty cool. So if you do retire, and you might want to look into that.
Right.
That was through Department of Veteran Affairs. I don't know exactly how it happened, but I do remember it, and because it was like 14 grand and they were stoked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another thing, so doing research in this since starting the podcast, I'm nose deep in it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to learn more history.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like a full circle moment. I told my wife this. So the Purple Heart is also another way that you can get that fee, not necessarily removed, but you're saying that, you know, discounted.
Yeah.
The Purple Heart is what I started looking at as far as like, it's obviously one of the most prestige awards.
Yeah.
So if you do get that award, you do get extra benefits. But what I read, so it was 1782 is when it first started, the Purple Heart.
Wow.
And that was General George Washington. He started it. And then there was a 150-year absence of the award. They thought it was broken in a sense. So there was 150 years that they just didn't want to touch it. You know, it was never a topic of conversation. And February 22nd of 1932 is when it started back up. And today is February 22nd. So I was like,
oh,
wow, like this is cool.
Yeah. This one kind of hits me. My grandpa he passed away a few months ago, and he had a Purple Heart.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So when you said it, it just gave me chills.
Yeah, I got it right now.
Yeah.
So as far as getting that award, what was it specifically that he got that honor to get that? And I know there's different ways.
There was a couple different situations that he had, but one of the things is he had to take radio equipment to shore. And God, I don't remember the battles. We have all this like on video of him talking about it.
Yeah.
But basically it was pretty gnarly, dude. Like, I think he joined when he was 17, Navy, and you know, the thing that, you know, the boat goes up, drops down, and he's running and there's bodies everywhere, and he goes for it. And then kamikaze came into his ship, and you know, a bunch of his buddies, he had shrapnel in his legs, and he's pulling people to the it was not he's a badass. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He just died at 96, and you know, he lived a good life, but it makes me a little sad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, no, he had, so I think like, I didn't know if you had a Purple Heart, your funding fee would be waived. So that's something I just learned. But typically, if you've had a Purple Heart, I would say you probably have some sort of disability.
Right.
You had something happen to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was reading a couple forums that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Just evidence that having the award.
Yeah.
You get that benefit. And as you should.
I did a loan for my grandpa, you know, like years ago, and he had VA disability. So I didn't even look into that, but that's interesting. It was cool. Like I said, just researching that stuff now when I get into topics with people, it's been cool to just. The one thing that you were talking about, the funding fee, a lot of people don't realize, but if you put 5% down, it cuts your funding fee by like, especially if you're a second time user, by almost 2%. So if you take it, especially like I always ask people, how long are you going to be here?
Right.
You know, because a lot of times it's 3 years. Well, when you sell that house, if you put 5% down, it's really almost putting like 7% down.
Right.
You know, because you're shaving off that funding fee that's going to be tacked onto that house. So when you go to sell it, you know,
let's talk about that too. I mean, those just got reduced. So
they did. On the second time use, I think it went, I just saw this yesterday. So give you a little bit of a break, but it went from 1.65 to 1.5 on the second time use. But on the, sorry,
you're good.
My phone's going to keep doing that all day. But it's 3.3, I believe, on the first time or on the second time use if you don't put 5% down. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I did $1 million VA loan, and they had sold their other property, but it was $33,000 funding fee. So take that into perspective down to 15,000. You know,
right?
So it's a huge number, especially if you're going to sell the house. But you know, I mean, okay, so it's a $400,000 house or $500,000. It's half of that,
right?
You know, it's a good chunk,
right?
You know,
so
I say if you have the money, do it,
right?
You know,
right, and then you could always. I have a line that you told me over the phone, and I've used it ever since. Right now is to date the rate, not marry it.
Yeah.
Explain that process for VA client, or just in general too.
In general, I mean, obviously VA is helpful. We can get into this a little bit more, but the VA has what's called an IRL. It's interest rate reduction loan, and it's done without an appraisal. The fees are really minimal, and they're great. And you can do it 210 days after your close. obviously rates have to be better to
Right.
do it.
Right.
But I'm always like, okay, long term, like I look back at those houses I bought,
Right.
and they're at 6% rates or 6.5% or something, at the height of the market. Well, fast forward 4 years later, rates drop. I put them on a 15-year loan at like 3.25%. Because 30 years were in the fours still, but the 15-year was way better. And maybe it cost me a little bit out of pocket, but fast forward to today, those 15-year loans are now paid off.
Right.
So it makes sense. So, get into the real estate when you can. I always say get into when you can afford the payment, and know that you're always looking for that opportunity, and it will come.
Right.
To refinance. I wouldn't say it would have come when the rates are 2% and 3%, because where are you going to go?
Yeah.
But when you're at 6 or 7% or even 5%, getting down 1% drop is a significant amount.
Yeah.
And if you say you got in at high 6s and it gets down to 4%, on a $400,000 or $500,000 house, that could be $800.
Right.
It's a big number.
And you're still offering, so let's say someone does come in and get a loan with you at 6.5%. You're offering no cost refis.
Yes. So there's no lender cost on that.
No lender fee on that.
Yeah.
What's the importance of that? So let's say, obviously right now, first time VA buyer comes in and their BH can cover most of it.
Sure.
But they're having to come out of pocket or whatever it may be. Yeah. What's the importance of that no cost refi other than just being able to drop their payment to where their BAH is covering it?
When you're looking at a refi, you're mainly looking, it's the no cost is amazing because it really costs them nothing. I typically set it up where they make their payment to cover like the escrow fees, and I close it like on the 15th before it's due, or, maybe the 10th before it's due, and push the next payment out. So basically what they would have paid in payment, they come in with for their cost.
Got it.
And they're just looking at it like, great. It basically is a wash on that. And, we're looking at $400 better a month if that opportunity comes.
Right.
Or when that opportunity comes.
Right.
And it will. In the last 18 years of my career, the average rate has been around 4.5%. So being in the high 6s, we're definitely on and up. I would say we're close to the top of where it's sustainable.
Right.
And it will come down. I don't think we're going to see 2s and 3s really, maybe high 3s on government stuff. But,
okay.
4s and 5s.
So as a lender, you're probably anticipating a refinance boom to be coming at some point.
Yeah. Volume has been down for the past, year and a half. I think the statistics are saying, 35% less home sales. But what a big driver is in that is not a lot of people are selling to move up because they're at 2.5 or 3. That's a big, it makes the jump more of a leap,
Right. Yeah.
So
I gotcha.
Which creates a lack of inventory.
Yeah.
So that's what's driving the, market constriction, if you will.
Right. So when it comes to that, with the way rates are, what's a way to make a VA offer stronger when it comes, I'm sure you get a lot of agents calling saying, hey, this is what, we have. What do you see that's getting accepted that it's just different, or that you'd recommend for agents to be like, hey, if you want to get your VA offer accepted, this is probably what you should look at?
It really depends. I a lot of times will just pick up the phone and talk to the agent, Luckily I've done enough loans around, the Central Valley to know most of the listing agents, or a good chunk of them. And, I say, give it a chance. Like, it's not what it used to be. They're not as strict. Same with FHA. A lot of people will have something in their mind where they're like, conventional is this magical thing that won't call for anything.
Right.
Well, it does. If the house has health and safety issues like torn up carpet where the tack strip's showing, that's a health and safety issue. That's going to get called on conventional VA, FHA.
Right.
Unless the appraiser's blind, which sometimes happens.
Yeah.
But,
we're at the mercy of an appraiser.
You are my friends and my enemies at the same time.
I think that is the toughest part of real estate that I've noticed is you're at the mercy of an appraiser.
Yeah, you can be.
Fortunately, if you have comps and everything to get you to that number that you are at, that's great. Yeah. But I let clients know, hey, we could think it's worth this and have comparables, but an appraiser can come in and stuff can sell, during that time frame of when the appraiser's out there.
Yeah, the one disadvantage to a VA offer would be that the Department of Veteran Affairs picks the appraiser.
Okay.
So, and if a listing agent's been burned by, there's a lot of good ones on there. There's some that are chosen appraisers that we would use for FHA and conventional that are on the VA panel.
Nice. Okay.
There's probably like 3 in the whole Central Valley that are probably 100 years old that have been on there forever, and the VA will not. And you're just like, how did you even get here?
Yeah.
But it's pretty rare. I don't see it very often anymore. A few years back, every time we'd see this name, it would just be like, oh, great. What's he going to do?
Right.
And it was a disadvantage to the veteran, unfortunately,
exactly.
Because a lot of times they wanted the house so bad that they came in $5,000 low, and the guy's like, well, dude, I want the house, so I'll come in more.
Right.
Here's $5,000 out of my pocket. Thanks, appraiser.
Yep.
Didn't help him
at all.
No.
So you're saying there is a pool that's just VA. When we put in an offer VA, they're certified basically.
Yeah.
For this, have their license to 100%. They know all the regulations.
They're
for
on
VA.
the VA basically.
Right. And that makes it just an easier process as far as random appraisers coming. You're at least knowing.
Yeah, they're typically from the area.
Okay.
Which is good. There's a good ones you're mainly Kings County, I would say. And, Kings, Tulare, Fresno, they're all for the most part pretty good.
Okay.
But some towns, you just never know who you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a downside.
It is what it is. But around here, it's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
As far as being the top lender around here in the state, that's amazing as it is. What does it take to get to that point? I think we've heard what your grind is so far.
Yeah.
But what else, teamwork, like just name some things that have helped you get to where you're at currently.
I think it's pretty basic. I say that.
Yeah, your basic is a lot different.
It is
to some people.
Like, I always joke around about this because, like, some people are so bad that the bar has been set low,
right?
Where I don't even have to do that good of a job and be the best. I'm joking, but calling people back, answering your phone, telling the truth,
communication,
dude. Like, those 3 things, you'd be surprised how many people you'd be like, oh my God, this guy must be the busiest person in the world. He's never called me back or hasn't called me back for a whole day in the middle of the week. It wasn't like he was out of town or something,
right?
And it just blows your mind.
Yeah.
But like those things, obviously, like over the last 18 years, whenever I got like I didn't know that happened. I'm like, how do I automate that?
Right.
Or phone calls, like, has appraisal been ordered? Like I sent a notification out, contract received. I sent another notification out, appraisal ordered, oops, sorry. Geez, that one didn't want to decline.
You're good.
But just, and then being 100% on your pre-approvals.
Right.
That's huge.
Right. Getting started out.
Doing one bad deal will kill 20 good ones. I used to say 10, but it's infinite.
Right.
If if you screw up a deal, and you'd be surprised. I save a ton of deals.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, like a lot of agents that use me today, it's because they might've been the listing agent on a deal that, you know, or buyer's agent, one or the other. And they said, you got to take this to Jeremy. And sometimes like I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, like in 10 minutes, I know that this is not going to work.
Right.
But that other loan officer should have known it wasn't going to work. You know, there's times when, you know, maybe some tax lien randomly pops up in escrow or child support lien that we didn't know about that wasn't anywhere. That happens.
Right.
But high 90% of the time when I get a deal from someone else that they couldn't do it, it's right there on the credit report, or, you know, I'm just like, what?
Right.
Like, how did you not see it? Or the income is funky, you know. But unfortunately, you just get a license to do this, and it's not that difficult to get in. And, you know, when the business was hot, they were, you know,
a little more simple.
Yeah, they were getting deals from everywhere.
What's the fastest you've closed on a VA loan?
Oh, God. I think like before TRID and all the time frames, I think it was 3 days, but recently I think 7.
Wow.
Whatever the like mandatory wait time is for disclosures. Yeah. I think it's 7. So it was somewhere in there.
Close a VA loan in 7 days.
Yeah. But in like 2000, it was like maybe 2010, before they had these mandatory wait times. Mm-hmm. We did one in 3 days.
Wow. Yeah. So is that the client having the cash ready kind of deal, or what is it that makes it?
That was like, obviously like someone else screwed it up and I jumped in
and you repaired it.
So the appraisal was done on that one.
Okay.
You know, so that made it easier.
Right. Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
Right.
You know, and that's the kind of stuff I like, you know, like, I like praise. I like, you know, thanks for saving us.
Yeah.
You know, like people go, oh, what do you know, obviously I love helping first time home buyers that are super excited, or even second time home buyers that are like, wow, we were able to do that because you helped us.
Right.
You know, but saving deals and, you know, when someone else, like when it's going to fall apart and the end of the world's happening for this family. I mean, because at the end of the day, like people forget that like, these people have packed their stuff up based on you wrote them a pre-approval.
Yeah.
And
they're on their way.
All hell is breaking loose. And they're like, dude, like not only do they have their stuff packed up, but they might have give that landlord notice and they got someone else coming in. So they're
right.
And I've been able to fix a lot of those. And
I know I've had 2 personal ones that I called you, and there was one where you're like, hey, I can't. You know, unfortunately. And I was like, man, you know, unfortunate side of real estate. And then I called you on another one. And the part I love about you is when you say you can do something, it's never really a follow-up of, hey, you said you can do this. Yeah. So I have the comfort of knowing, hey, you know, Jeremy said that he's going to make this happen with this amount of money. I'm very comfortable telling clients that. Some clients are like, you know, they think that's weird. And to me, it's a trust.
Well, you know, I think a lot of the top agents use me because they know, like, when I give them the green light, they can pretty much move on to their job. Yep, exactly. They don't have to. And go back to what's made me more successful is basically whether you're a small agent that does, you know, a very small amount of deals through the year, or the biggest one, you can focus on your job. Right. And I will take care of the rest. And a lot of the stuff I do and implemented over the years is to help you do your job better. Like I'll be like, hey, did you get that termite report? You know, and you're like, oh, but I'm not asking like at funding. Right. You know, I'm asking, hey, it's in the contract in the first week. And you're like, oh, forgot I put that in there or whatever, you know? So
you have underwriting basically at a phone call away, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right?
So our company is local. Our underwriters are, we actually have one in Bakersfield, a couple in Visalia, and then Fresno. And then we have one at the coast as well.
Okay. So, what is underwriting, and what is the benefit of you having those kind of pools to make an escrow easier?
I would say local underwriting. There's a handful of things. So one is like, you get to know these people, and when they know that you're a good loan officer and you know your stuff, they're going to trust what you say, and you're not baiting them into some disaster.
Right.
So like you said, you have that comfort with me when I say it's good. They have that comfort with me now over years of developing these relationships that I'm going to get it done, and I'm not feeding them some BS line. I'm going to be honest with them.
Right.
Because at the end, me being an owner of the company, I wear two hats. I wear the hat as the loan officer that wants close.
Yeah.
But also like, I got to get this loan purchased by, Jenny May or whatever. So if it doesn't, like, it's on me, and I have to write the check for it. And
right.
I don't have that kind of money to be writing those checks a lot.
Yeah. So if there was an issue in that process of underwriting, is it something like you get quicker answers as far as like, hey, this is what we need. This is what's going to pop up.
Yeah. And to be honest with you though, like, I mean, in my career, I've done over 8,000 loans for, I don't know, maybe 2 billion now.
Wow.
So I think like, my underwriters don't see this, but sometimes I know just as much as them. Mm-hmm. So when I do a pre-approval, like, I know it's going to work. I don't have to check with an underwriter, know?
Right.
There are things, there's gray areas that I'm like,
this may not
how do you feel about this? Cause this is kind of what I'm feeling.
Right.
And as long as we're on the same page, I just move forward with it.
Okay.
But back to your question about local underwriters, there's a specific thing about local that makes it really good. I've had, back in the day, jumbo loans had to go out to, get underwritten somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So we had a house in the country, which if you're from the Central Valley or know anything about the Central Valley, like, you could have $1 million house here and a $400,000 house next door.
Right.
One might be 1,800 square feet, with cars parked in it, and one's like a freaking mansion anywhere else in the world. Yeah. Well, our underwriters understand that, and they know the areas, and, maybe there's a big ranch behind it that's part of it as well. But basically, I sent this loan years ago off, and they're like, well, no, these comps, look, the house next door was $300,000. And we're like, well, it's obvious. Look at the difference. Right. But the underwriter in New York that's used to sky rises and, or Chicago or wherever this underwriter is from, right? They don't get our country folk.
Yeah. The land. They don't,
yeah. I mean, there's, I choose to live in the country, and there's people that like a gated community as well. And, but I like to have a little room to run around. Right. So my house is nice, maybe down the road is not as nice, but it's not, a subdivision that's only the same, like print
throughout everywhere,
so having local underwriters, that's really helpful.
When you opened up Vero Mortgage, mm-hmm. what was your vision? And do you think you're there, or do you think
I'm never there?
There you go. Okay. Yeah. When you first opened it, what was your vision? And then what is your current vision now from when you first opened it?
Gosh, that's tough. I think I wanted to have as much control as possible, mm-hmm. Because these people are depending on me. So owning the company gives me a lot of control, mm-hmm. Gives my loan officers a lot of control that work for me as well, because they know they can come to me.
Right. What benefit do they have with that? Compared to other big, VA companies.
Yeah. Think about, a company that does, nationwide stuff. Have you ever met the president? Do you know him? Do you talk to him?
As a loan officer local.
Yeah. And not only am I an owner, but I'm also in the grind every day. So I'm seeing what's out there. Right. They're, I mean, maybe they are, but from what I know, they're filling out spreadsheets to figure out what's happening in their market, not really knowing what's happening. Just like, a huge corporation, might not know that the employee is super bummed. Right. I'm seeing it all,
So your vision starting out, what was your goal? Like your very first, I'm doing this. And
I think my goal is to always, I really like the Central Valley. I'd like to grow. We really have it figured out in between, right here, obviously, Tulare, Kings, Fresno. But I think we could take it to Modesto, Stockton, that direction, down to Bakersfield, like that. We have this price range and demographic like figured out. Yeah, nailed. So I stay in my lane,
right.
A little more there. I've opened the thought up to other states.
Okay. Is that
I'd say that's a goal, but I'd say it's pretty far out right now.
Okay.
Right now, just trying to navigate what the hell is going to happen with the government and what they're doing to our interest rates and stuff.
Right.
Has kind of like shifted in front of some of my gears because, in a normal market, like, okay, we're probably going to do about this many loans. So I need this many processors, this many indirect,
right.
That's been, it's been a little overwhelming.
Yeah. I've noticed it's different lanes from, obviously I came in during COVID. So that was, I say this often. I felt like I got thrown to the wolves. Yeah. There's lots of hungry people out there. And I was just very, luckily I had good teachers. Yeah. That's what I honestly feel that you guys are doing it so long. When I say you guys, you and Brianne, to where if it's ever a spot to where I don't know what I'm doing, I at least have the comfort of calling you guys and saying, hey, is this normal? And whenever you tell me, no, it's not, I always feel better. Yeah. So I've noticed there's different lanes at that point. My clients are putting in $15,000, $20,000 over asking. Yeah. And that's the market I came into. Yeah. Like that was
not fun.
It wasn't. Yeah. And I deal with just buyers, I'm building my buying clients. I want to master the buying side. I want to know every loan before I start getting into selling will come at some point in my career, but to where now my buyers will turn into sellers.
Yeah. Eventually they're going to sell their homes
and they're going to trust me through the buying process to where I can tell them the same thing. I tell everyone, hey, I'm just starting out from when I first started, but I do have a team here. I can get answers to you. Yeah. To where when I go to selling now, they're going to call back. I'm going to tell them the same thing is, hey, I'm just dabbling into selling.
I feel like you go above and beyond for your clients. So I would be surprised if every single one of your clients didn't call back
at some point.
No joke.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
For sure.
That's just been, our family.
I know that's just the way you are.
It is.
You're just a nice guy.
And it's natural.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No, 100%.
And it's 100% caring about people.
I think that's another thing. Go back to success is be yourself.
Right.
Sometimes I'm a little crazy.
Yeah.
You can't be to do it at that level.
Yeah. Can't be normal.
No, you can't. Sometimes I wish I could turn it off, but because my vacation, people go, oh, you're vacationing here, vacationing there. I'm like, no, I just go to cool places to work.
Yeah. You're taking a lap. Yeah. That's
my
wife
will take pictures of me. She probably has like a whole collage of these. Like I'm hiding in a corner, like at an airport, carrying my bags.
Talking on the phone. Yeah. If there's one thing I love about you, it's the bending over backwards picture.
Yeah.
So when I first started real estate, it was.
Don't put that on the screen.
No, I will not show anyone that, but you are the definition of bending over backwards for people to, you'll do that before you say you can't make it work.
Oh, so yeah. Like I will, obviously if I wrote the prequel, it's going to close.
Right.
But if I'm trying to save a deal or something, I'm going to make it happen. If it's can be done, I'll get it done.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So my last two questions.
Sure.
What is the most rewarding side of closing on a VA loan for you personally? Not just like the team, but just yourself.
I think a lot of times people will thank me, especially ones that like haven't even come here yet, and they're like, I can't believe we were able to do all this. Just the surprise and them thanking me. I think the most rewarding thing for me in this business is when people are appreciative and, realize what you went through to make it happen for them. I've got a lot when they're in another country or, they've never even been here. They just zoom through the house or whatever. And they're just like, 22 days later, they bought the house and they're just like, whoa, that was amazing. And feels good.
Yeah. Just to have that initial, we did it, close kind of deal.
Yeah. I think recognition from them, it's kind of like, I always joke around about this. Like, I say you don't call your landscaper to tell him how good your lawn looks. You call him when there's weeds coming out of it.
That's true.
I personally call mine sometimes and be like, hey, dude, I just want to call you and tell you it looks good because I know you only get the bad calls.
Yeah, that's never thought of that.
Yeah. So, in lending, it's a little less rewarding probably than selling the home.
Right.
Because let's face it, you have something they want.
Right.
No one wants a mortgage for 30 years. Like I'm selling something that sucks.
Yeah.
Every day they're like, or every month they get a bill.
Right. Right.
That's this guy.
Okay.
You have the beautiful house, that they're barbecuing at it. I just have the way to make it happen.
Right. Yeah. I think you probably get the calling the gardener to tell them it looks great, probably because you did that.
I did.
So
I did. But also like in this industry, like, thanks, you got my loan done.
Right.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Mortgages have been kind of commoditized in the last few years with the giant, people doing them. So, and some people that fits their box. Most it doesn't.
Right.
That takes a little more, especially around here. You have people that don't get paid the same. VA, it's a little easier. It's right on their LES,
Right.
But putting projects together and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
February 22nd, 2033, 10 years from now.
Oh, God.
Where do you see Vero Mortgage?
I have no idea.
No clue?
Right now.
Yeah.
I guess my long-term goal would be, throughout California's valley.
Okay.
Gosh, it could be, there's some, obviously like some of the VA states that people are coming into and going out of.
Right.
Like in my head, I'm like, why don't I have a branch there?
In those areas.
Yeah. Because
Virginia Beach.
Exactly.
Like the bigger name.
Yeah. 100%.
Panama City.
So,
go down to Florida.
Yeah. I mean, then I could vacation there.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Business trip.
Let's
right?
go ahead and get this started. We could all make a trip.
No, I mean, I think, Central Valley and all the way up to, Stockton down to Bakersfield. And then those military areas, even San Diego would be a good spot.
Ridgecrest. Has that ever crossed your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of loans there.
Yeah.
I do them here. So that's the other thing. I mean, I can be here and still do, all I have to be is licensed in those areas.
Right. That's the best part about our job, I feel, is that.
Yeah. Especially since COVID,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like I hardly meet with any clients now, like face to face.
Right.
It's over the phone. I mean, we spend a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah.
And going over paperwork or just answering questions, but they're not interested in coming to my office.
Right.
It's not like they're not trying to set that appointment with me. And like a lot of times I'll get the phone call, not VA people, but just they're like, I'd like to set an appointment to come in and see you. And I'm like, oh, well, if you do the application and upload all your docs, you save a trip.
Right. You can do it all.
Yeah. Because if they come in, I'm going to be like,
e-signature too.
Oh, you missed this. Now come back.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, it's a little different.
Cool. Well,
sorry.
No, you're
I'm
good.
on a tangent on everything.
No, I'm glad to have you in. The point of this is just to get VA clients to us.
Yeah.
Is the overall point. And if you have anyone you recommend, feel free to send them my way.
Sure.
I am going to hit an avenue of getting more personal people that are active military that are in here telling their stories. So if you know anyone that would love to come in here and just say what they've been through, I would love to have them on.
That's really good idea.
And yeah, it was a whole different aspect of, just the ones that we filmed already to now. To where I'm like, I would love to.
Well, customer testimonials is the best way to show the good work you do.
Right.
Well,
and I even want to hit, just people that have been in military and have stories to tell about a war. Like, I want to hit that.
I wish my grandpa was.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that to where I want people to come in and just talk about it. Yeah. It needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
And I feel like this platform is going to all come full circle to where.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would be interested in feeling what other people went through because they might have the same thing.
Right.
Or, even the house buying process or whatever, like, oh, wow, I did that. Okay, cool. Yeah. He could help me do this.
Yeah.
Or,
what are they talking about?
Yeah,
and
sure.
I want them to come here and see we have a team that is established and committed to their service.
Yeah.
Thanking them is one of the biggest things that you can do. But I want them to know that we're more than that. Just more than saying thank you. We have a team that's here to be a family.
For sure.
That's the purpose of it. I appreciate you coming out. And like I said, if you know anyone from here on out, send them my way. And this isn't going to be your first time with me. So
whether I like it or not.
Yeah, we're going to be here. There's a lot of topics other than VA that you have. So I do. I want to pick your brain.
Whether I like it or not, it's there's a lot in there.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming out, taking the time, obviously waking up that early to get here.
No big deal. I was excited to do it.
Yeah.
A little nervous though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I still am too. But I really do appreciate you coming out.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Jared.